Welcome to another edition of Off Base alongside Xavier Scruggs. I'm Robert Flores. Thanks for joining us. All-Star Week is in the rearview mirror.
Yeah.
Now, look, I grew up in Houston. I'm used to heat and humidity, but I've been living in the Northeast too long. That ATL heat is
different.
Different, man.
That was different. And I live in Tampa, too. So, but still, like, hot is hot. Right? And I gave you one of my handkerchiefs. I noticed I haven't gotten it back yet. Was you sweating it all over?
Yeah,
and
I need to get that clean before I returned it to you. So just to make that's clear. Hey, we are celebrating Hall of Fame weekend, the ceremony upcoming at Cooperstown. So let's move the needle and let's get it started there with CC Sabathia. And CC Sabathia had a little bit of trouble on the road to Cooperstown. Not getting in. He was a first ballot Hall of Famer. I'm talking about the literal road. My man broke down as he was making his way to Cooperstown, which is crazy because you know he had a nice ride.
Right. That's what I'm thinking is he probably had some type of limo on the way, some type of nice black car service. But it reminds you that, you know, it is not easy to get to Cooperstown. Something's going to deter you no matter what, right?
Yeah. And how about he sent out the follow-up tweet saying, hey, I appreciate you guys offering to ride. You guys are great. But, like, if you're CC Sabathia, you got to be careful about jumping into just any kind of random car.
Any Uber or anything like that, right? But that's a story easily at Cooperstown, too, that he can put in the speech.
And I'm sure we will get a little bit of that during his speech. But I know that this induction in particular means a lot to you.
Yeah, it really does. And I think, you know, some of these guys I played with and against, and I'm thinking about specifically
There's CC at the All-Star Celebrity Game.
Picture of CC right there. He won the MVP of the Celebrity All-Star Game, as we were just talking about, the All-Star Game in Atlanta. But look, this is someone that he has got all the intangibles, but also all the actual accolades that you need as a player too. So. And the same thing goes for Ichiro. Had the opportunity to play with Ichiro, with the Marlins. So these guys, not only being friends, but guys that I've seen go about it for a long period of time with true longevity in the game.
I remember I was at Yankee Stadium to see CC Sabathia's last game. Wow. He left that. It was during the postseason in a series against the Astros. And you talk about guys, you know, going until the wheels come off.
Yes.
That was CC Sabathia. Yeah. What an impressive resume that this guy put together.
It really is. And I would start with 2008. Well, first of all, his rookie season, he came second in MVP or in voting as a rookie the year to Ichiro, who we'll talk about too. But think about 2008 when he got traded to Milwaukee and just dominated after that point, right? The second half of the season was unreal in what he did. And I'm looking at some of these numbers. Go back to 2008, he had a 1.65 ERA in 17 games. And then think about 2009, ALCS MVP. He threw that complete game in 2012 with the Yankees as well. So just even him switching teams and still having that same dominance to me was so important. 3,000 strikeouts we see as well. Only a few lefties actually being able to do that.
That's right.
So what I think about CC, not just the accolades, but everybody loved him as a teammate too. Everybody said he was a leader in that clubhouse, and you could tell you cannot mess with somebody like CC. You think about he got ejected for throwing at.
That's right.
Remember he threw at one of the Rays players.
It was in St. Petersburg against the Rays, and I believe he had a bonus at stake.
Yes.
And he took it upon himself. I believe this is it right here.
Right here, yeah.
He's protecting his teammates. He eventually gets ejected. With, as I said, there was bonus money at stake here for CC Sabathia. But what does that say to him about him as a man and teammate?
Right, and I think, you know, having played this game, there's only a handful of guys that would do something like that. And it reminds you that this is someone that's going to stick up for every single player in that clubhouse. They're going to put the team before themselves. And in this day and age in which everything's so egotistical, everything's all about me, even performance, it's an individual sport within a team aspect, right? Like, he was still the guy that said, hey, everybody else is in front of me. And I think that's what I appreciate just as much as some of those numbers.
And good job by the Yankees. They eventually made CC whole there.
Right.
They ended up giving him the bonus money, but it just definitely speaks to him as more than a player. Meantime, another left-hander is going to be joining him in Cooperstown, and that's Billy Wagner.
Yeah.
As someone that is an Astro fan, grew up an Astro fan, there's so many remarkable things about Billy Wagner. One remarkable thing is that it took him this damn long to get in. He should have been in long before.
Yes.
The second thing is, he was a natural right-handed person, thrower, but he broke his arm, ends up learning how to throw left-handed,
Right.
and learning how to throw left-handed at 100 miles an hour.
Oh my goodness! And I think what he did, obviously not many relievers get the opportunity to get in.
Yeah.
Right. I think there's only 9 actual relievers that got in. Right. But to think about his dominance in striking guys out, it just does not happen that easily. The way he came out of the bullpen and made it look easy. And I also think about how he left the game, right? Like left still on top, basically.
Yeah, we got the numbers right here. His last season in 2010 with the Atlanta Braves. Opponent OPS 493. Opponents were hitting just 159. Look at the strikeout to walk ratio. So there was still plenty left in the tank when he just decided, you know what, I got to go home to my family.
When I think about that too, it's like when you can leave almost in the tip of the cap and finish on a strong note, that doesn't happen for most guys. Most guys are pushed out of the league in a sense, right? And we're watching some of the highlights now. The dominance of that slider plus that fastball at 100 miles at the top of the zone for righties and lefties, so tough to touch. As a hitter, I'm just thinking about, okay, if I can get him down a little bit, but he almost had the rise before we started talking about that spin rate. Before we started talking about that, he had that, and that was consistent in his game.
Well, we had JP Morosi on MLB Central earlier in the week, and JP mentioned that Billy Wagner, who went to a Division III college, is the only Division III college player to eventually land in Cooperstown at the Baseball Hall of Fame. So just remarkable stuff. Hey, Ichiro, another member of this 2025 class. He scored 1,420 runs during his career. But this, we're going to show you in a little bit, might be our favorite. You played with Ichiro in 2016.
I mean, it's like the back part of his career, but just the player he was, the opportunity to play with somebody that had that type of longevity.
And you go bridge.
Yeah. Think about it. This is my first major league home run, and I'm running on clouds, but I get to come home and dap up Ichiro for my first home run. Like that is just mind-blowing to me. But I also got to see Ichiro during spring training this year, and Ro Flo, he was still out there.
Full uniform.
Full uniform, getting ready before one of the games. He's not playing, but he's still getting ready for the game. And I almost felt bad going up to him because I was like, I don't want to mess up his routine or nothing because I remember how strict he was about his routine. And that's ultimately what gave him the accolades in which he had. I want to show some video because when you think about at 27 years old, coming over after already part of your prime being in Japan and jumping on the stage as a rookie in 01, winning Rookie of the Year, but also winning MVP. Look how sweet, short, compact the swing was. I mean, he was able to place the ball wherever he wanted to, but also the defensive prowess. Look at him throwing out Terrence Long here.
This is unbelievable.
Cannon. But it was a huge part of his game, too, right? 10 gold gloves, playing the best. He was the best right fielder we saw during that time. And then to me, I think about, not just from an offensive standpoint, but base running as well, going and getting the baseball. And from someone that came over to Japan, and I think about myself going over to Korea, the acclimation is not easy. For him to do it the first 10 years being an all-star, it was almost like he was made to come over here, and he should have came over here sooner because the domination would have been even more, but some of the numbers are just unreal. I wanted to point out, in 2004, that was probably his best season. He led the majors with a 272 batting average and ultimately stealing over 50 bases. Just some of these numbers are just flat out crazy, but we can talk numbers all day, but the type of person he was too.
Yeah.
When I think about playing with him, there was a sense of, hey, watch what I do because this is the right way to go about it. And those are the best ones.
He hit 350 his rookie year. Just unbelievable.
Right.
A graceful, beautiful player to watch. Also part of the 2025 class, 2 members that will be inducted posthumously.
Yes.
The late Dick Allen and Dave Parker, who we recently lost. In both cases, both men, like Billy Wagner, should have been much earlier.
Right.
Dave Parker, you cannot write the story of of baseball in Major League Baseball in the 1970s without mentioning Dave Parker. I remember his saying, when the leaves turn brown, I'll be wearing the batting crown. And as a kid of the 1970s, I grew up admiring, loving watching him. But his performance in the 1979 All-Star Game at the old Seattle Kingdome, that is when I became a fan. First of all, the uniforms are great. Everything about that, it was the defense, it was the power, the batting average. And you know what? I mean, he was a force out there. He was a physical force out there.
Yeah, he actually reminds me of, like, what we would look at modern day Aaron Judge body-wise, right? Just a straight specimen. And when we talk about all these guys, the idea of a unicorn always comes out. We talk about Shohei Ohtani, unicorn, but like same thing goes for Ichiro, Wagner, all these guys, CeCe, they were just different. And you build your life as a young player trying to do something unique in this game that can have you stand out, but there's only a handful that ultimately get that accomplishment of the Hall of Fame, and that's why those guys are so special.
Yeah, also elected via the Classic Baseball Era Committee or ballot was the late Dick Allen, who passed away in 2020. We had Mike Schmidt on earlier in the weekend on MLB Central, aired a snippet of an interview he did with J.P. Morosi, and he just talked about how Dick Allen had to suffer through some abuse, racial abuse in various cities that he played, and that Dick Allen, he wore a batting helmet out in the field, played a lot of first base, but he wore a batting helmet in part because of the things being thrown at him from the stands. So, and Mike commented that Dick did not play with a type of joy. And Dick also talked about that later in retirement, that I wish I had played with more joy, but it was such a grind for him.
Right. And I think that's what we can kind of sit back and appreciate is just the mental aspect of that grind, right?
Yeah.
And the things that guys battle as humans. It reminds you that these players are humans going out there doing what they can for their team, but once they leave the field, they're just like everybody else. And for them to have that mental capacity, the same goes for, anybody that's had a lot of success in any industry is like, it takes a lot out of you. And we can appreciate that. No matter who we're talking about, I think this is the cool thing about the Hall of Fame is like, we can sit back and look at what somebody did, accumulated in their whole career.
Well, let's take a quick time out. When we come back, we're going to take a look at the possibility of what the 2026 Hall of Fame class could look like. We'll discuss that. You're watching Off Base. All right, welcome back as we continue to celebrate the Baseball Hall of Fame. Let's look ahead to 2026. Here's a look of the notable returning players and what their voting percentage was like in 2025 as we look ahead to next year. Remember, you need 75% to get inducted into the Baseball Hall of Fame. Carlos Beltran, Andruw Jones, and X, those are the two players I want to start with. Andruw Jones, it's another case where he should be in. And it's also an example of a player whose longevity may have hurt him. If he had just retired after the first 10 years of his career, he's probably in much sooner.
Absolutely. And when you think about one of the best, if not the best, right behind Willie Mays, defensive center fielders in the game, that's who it is, right? 10 Gold Gloves, amassed 434 home runs, one of 4 players to have 400 plus home runs and 10 Gold Gloves. So it just, some of the numbers are really cool to see. But to your point, I look at that might have hurt him up until this point, but I think 2026 might help him with maybe not as many big names coming in the first year of their ballot candidacy. So I think for both Beltran and Andruw Jones, I think they have the opportunity to easily get in.
Yeah, you're talking about some of the first-year players who are on the ballot for the first time next year, Cole Hamels, Matt Kemp. So maybe that in a way helps out Andruw Jones. And here's some of the other first-year Hall of Fame or players that will be on the Hall of Fame ballot for the first time: Hamels, Encarnacion, Alex Gordon, Matt Kemp, Shin-Soo Choo. I also want to circle back to Carlos Beltran. Second most extra base hits as a switch hitter all time. Only Eddie Murray has more as a switch hitter, and he was just over 70% of the vote. I think he's trending in the right direction, however.
Definitely. And I think another number that stuck out to me is what he's done in the postseason, the 4th best all time with over 1,000 OPS in the postseason. So when we look at some of those, postseason numbers, right? We always talk about, did somebody win a World Series or what they did? Did they perform in the postseason? That was Carlos Beltran as well. And such a long career of a lot of success, right? So we look at Andrew Jones and think about that great short burst. Beltran had a little bit longer with that too.
Yep.
So one of the best switch hitters to ever do it. And another one of my former teammates, also when he played with the Cardinals too.
Hey, don't sleep on the 300-plus stolen bases
Yes,
for Carlos Beltran.
He was a huge part of it.
You would think that he's got the resume and that he's trending in the right direction. All right, what about the current players who could be on the Hall of Fame highway? We're going to handicap some of the current players' chances and where they stand as a possibility of Cooperstown in their future. Stay with us. Welcome back as we continue to celebrate Cooperstown during induction weekend. What about current players that could be on the Hall of Fame highway? First of all, that's quite
awesome.
a nice little photo mock-up there. Let's talk about three players: Jose Altuve, Aroldis Chapman, and Giancarlo Stanton, and talk about their chances of possible induction into Cooperstown.
Yeah.
Jose Altuve, I know people still feel a certain type of way about Altuve. I understand it, but I believe he's going to the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, I think he's a shoo-in. When I think about someone that beat the odds, right, specifically with his height, but it tells you about the ridiculous power that he's had. When you think about the 27 all-time postseason home run, that list, he's right up there.
I mean, look at that.
Right behind, Ramirez right there.
Ramirez.
So those things are impressive to me, but what he's done in the Astros uniform too, doing it with one team, being somebody that wasn't necessarily counted to be a big-time threat in the offensive order, but he's instant offense, and he's been it for a long period of time. So to me, I think Altuve is almost just a shoo-in, and I don't think the scandal will hurt him enough to deter him out of that.
One of his signature moments came against our next player. In the 2019 LCS, he homered off Aroldis Chapman to close out the New York Yankees. Chapman has the numbers, you would think. I mean, we began this show talking about Billy Wagner.
Right.
Aroldis Chapman, he's Billy Wagner, but more to the extreme.
Yes.
Especially with the strikeout numbers.
And when we talked about the peripherals of these players, right? And when you think about strikeouts per nine, he's as comparable to Billy Wagner. It tells you how dominant a player is, being able to put guys away. Now, the one thing that may be a little bit more against him, as we're seeing the players with 350 saves and 1,250 strikeouts, also think about the innings, right? That's one thing that we saw Billy Wagner have to wait, maybe because he didn't have the innings. That's the one thing I'll be interested to see if people will vote in Aroldis Chapman without certain amount of innings. He still has time to go, though.
No doubt.
Right? He's still around, 800, but he's got some time, and hopefully he can get to that maybe 900 mark.
Well, I tell you what, he's looked very effective so far this year. Also,
Absolutely.
2 World Series titles.
Yeah.
Lastly, Giancarlo Stanton, a former MVP.
Right.
He has spent a lot of time, unfortunately, on the injured list. But he's at 430-plus home runs right now. If he gets to 500, he's getting in whether you like it or not.
Right, yes. That's the thing is you get 500, he has, the injuries have been an issue, but it almost is more impressive to me that he's had this many injuries and can still get to 500 home runs. So I think it tells you how impactful he is. We saw what he did last postseason as well. So still impactful during the postseason.
And I'm glad that you mentioned what he has done in the postseason.
Yeah.
He has been excellent. Aaron
Absolutely.
Judge has struggled at times in the postseason. Giancarlo Stanton has been their best postseason performer recently.
Yeah.
Okay, so the All-Star game was in Atlanta, Georgia. Major League Baseball is returning to the southeast part of the country again for the Speedway Classic coming up Saturday, August 2nd, 7:15 Eastern on Fox. MLB Central will be there Friday morning and on Saturday. You saw a glimpse of the uniforms. We're looking at them right here. Ellie De La Cruz and Ozzy Albies showcasing the new Speedway look. What do you think?
First of all, it's amazing that they're going to get to do this in this type of venue.
The
right?
scenics look incredible.
I've got to give Major League Baseball a lot of credit for what they've been able to do and turn some of these atmospheres into real baseball stadiums. And I like the uniforms. Like we just saw the uniforms and how they pay an odd to, what we see at normal speedways. And I can't wait to see the swag that the players have to bring with it. I think I saw Franklin batting gloves were like almost made as like the real driver's batting gloves. Or the real driver's gloves.
Oh, the real driver's
yes.
gloves. I just love the number font.
Yes.
Because it's, as you said, it's kind of like the numbers that we see on the doors of those NASCAR vehicles and race machines. But I can't wait to see what all those people, because it's such a closed structure.
It's going to be different,
You know?
It's going to be cool. And I think, might be the atmosphere might play a little different. But I also like the idea that we have two of the premier speed guys in the game, too, and Ellie De La Cruz, Ronald Acuna Jr. It's only right that they did it with those two types of players. And I think fans will be, and maybe just general fans of sports who end up coming to these games or this game will be surprised in how exciting it is.
Real quick, do you have a venue or a place that we should take the game of baseball next?
Oh, man, that's a good question. I keep saying we need to do a real game in the Dominican. Like, just, have something to where
it's a baseball craze nation.
Yeah,
man.
and it's a different atmosphere. I love seeing it.
All right. How about the Grand Canyon?
Put a. Is that even possible?
Anything is possible.
Anything
is possible. It's possible. I'm not sure that it's possible for us to do a better show. I'll tell you that.
I like that.
For Xavier Scruggs, I'm Robert Flores. Thanks for watching.